the Cyhawk duel?
First off, we had some really good things happen this past weekend. You know, we always talk about the next ones, the biggest one, and so I thought we did a good job focusing on. We had a lot of guys, 26 some guys were in a 12-day marathon, or 12-hour, 12-day, felt like 12 days, 12-hour marathon at Grandview, and then we had, some good things at Navy. We got a few more guys back in there, and so now, maybe you circle this one twice instead of once, but obviously, going into this week, I think, the Iowa State duel is bigger than our coaching staff or their coaching staff. This thing's been around forever. I remember watching it as a kid. Heck, last year we had 200 and I'll be a numbers guy right now. We had 265,000 people watch it on ESPN, the flagship station. Another 15,000 sold out. You don't get that much, and so that just tells you that this dual meet is just something special that's been around for a long, long time, and it's bigger than any of us. And so, for me as a coaching staff, and I'll try to get this across to my team, is it's just a great opportunity. It's really, we're always making history, but this is really making history. So, we don't know what 10 guys yet, but I got, more than 10 really excited guys. We'll probably take 15-ish with us, weigh in, and then we'll decide which 10 guys we're going to use. But just really excited to get to be a part of something like this.
Speaking of which 10 guys, where are you on? And where's Younger Bastida? Would you think that he's?
Yeah, right now he's going.
Okay.
We got some scrapping to do tomorrow, but we'll guard him a little bit. But at the same time, we got to go. He had a good scrap yesterday, and he was really hard most of last week. So he's excited. He's ready to go.
What about Panero?
Panero's good to go. Yeah, I think his being out a whole year of folk style wrestling and then throwing him into a meat grinder, not in terms of competition maybe, but just in terms of the day, probably was kind of throwing Panero to the fire. But I needed to throw him in the fire a little bit, so we got some good things out of it. I wouldn't want to go in with Panero's personality. I wouldn't want to go in and just throw him out there to the number one ranked guy in the nation. That wouldn't be fair either. So Panero seems to rise to the occasion when the occasion's there. So he's going to have to really rise, because I'll tell you, they got a really good guy at 157. I think he's the number one ranked guy for a reason.
Yeah, what is he going to have to do to rise to that occasion? Obviously, Chittum beat Teamer last year. What is Panero going to have to do to repeat that result?
Well, he's going to have to, be excited about the challenge, and I think he will be. And physically, he's fine. I think he dinged up his ankle a little bit more, but I think his body probably just gave out on him a little bit more than I think he was in his fourth match or something. So he's going to scrap hard tomorrow. He's doing some hard drilling today. So, I think everything's on track to go.
Similar opportunity for Christian Carroll, maybe. What have you liked about his mentality and the way he wrestles?
Well, you guys probably heard more about his mentality, because he's kind of quiet around me. But I think when you get a microphone in front of him, he's not quite so quiet, is he?
He's a hunter and he's pissed off.
Is he? Well, good. Is that what he said? He's a hunter and he's pissed off, huh? Well, you know what? In this guy's career, he's not going to get to be the underdog much. And it's kind of like our team. It's like, when you're coming, we had a lot of really good things have happened to us as of late. Winning a Big 12 championship, getting a trophy. This team hasn't been an underdog much, and so just like Christian Carroll, Iowa State and Christian Carroll, we're going to go into enemy territory, and we're going to be the underdog, and that's when you find out what you're made out of. And so I know he's really looking forward to the task. But that guy's I told you at the beginning, when he gets it all dialed in, he's pretty special. But he's got, he's the underdog. That's not mixed words.
What have you seen from Younger this offseason back to losing nationals last year?
I've seen a great guy in the room. I just need to get him out on the mat, right? I've seen a great guy in the room. He, from about June 1 on, he has been as dialed in, and we've thrown a lot of tests on him. He's trained with a lot of really high-level guys this summer and late summer, early fall, and then in the room. Besides just getting a little dinged up, a goofy warming up thing that he was doing, kind of horsing around almost, a real non-wrestling injury. He's been awesome.
How is is 125 one of those weights where you might bring a few guys? And
yeah, we'll probably weigh in Kyson and Mesa both. Okay. Those two guys right now is the plan to weigh in both those guys. So it's Tuesday. If we get through tomorrow, and I always say that because remember about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I said if we get through that day, and Swiderski blew out his knee. Yeah. So when I say that, it's real. So we got to get through tomorrow, and we get through tomorrow, those two guys will go, and we'll figure out which guy's going to be the guy.
Speaking of 141, how is that competition going between Reading and Frost, and what are you anticipating with that weight?
We're going to make a game time decision there. I'm not going to throw those guys in a wrestle off. Jacob Frost, he wrestled this weekend, but it was his first time out there. He also was coming off just a baby sprain on his knee. So I don't know. At the beginning of the year, I try not to. If somebody's a little bit dinged up, I try not to throw them out there. Sometimes obviously, you got to get them ready to go, and so you want to put them in the fire. Nobody wants to walk out and wrestle a big-time dual meet with not having at least a wrestle-off or a practice match, because it is a little bit overwhelming. I mean, it's part of the reason things didn't go well for us at Stanford, because you got to simulate that. But at 41 right now, we're going to make a game-time decision. We're going to see, both those guys can get the job done. One of them will probably be really excited. One of them will probably be really mad at me. But when we get back, we'll have a wrestle-off to see which guy we take to Vegas.
Yeah. And then 165, obviously you got Uten, who's been wrestling pretty well, and then Gaetan is making the trip down to 165. Is that still the plan with Gaetan being at 65, or is there thought of maybe bumping him back up to 74 the way Uten's wrestling, or what's going on?
I think
with
that's
that
a
weight?
to be determined thing right now.
Okay.
I think we're getting closer to that, but right now we haven't made a decision. Right now the plan is to weigh in both those guys at 165, so that we haven't made obviously it's still early November and we don't figure this out till the first week of March. I would say we got to know what the heck we're doing when we go to the Big 12. So give me 3 months.
What have you liked about Anthony? The evolution, I guess, of Anthony's mentality, let alone the way he wrestles.
Anthony Chimandi has really grown up, and I don't say that in a negative way. That's the whole thing, is you're supposed to get more mature when you go through college, and you're supposed to get more mature about the sport and understand the sport better. And he's done a lot of that. He's a student of it, and he's getting a lot smarter, and he's going to get tested this weekend. I mean, my gosh, he's got another guy that and all these guys mysteriously pop up that are all ranked number 1 in the nation, and now we got to go.
What do you, when you go out and coach in this duel, do memories of competing in it creep into your head at any point?
I think a little bit. I think that's a fair question. I think, yeah. I've wrestled across the street here, and I've wrestled there a whole lot more. So I think, our whole coaching staff can share stories and experiences with our team about wrestling in both buildings. So I think there's some value in that.
Coach, kind of a broad question. Just how much kind of has your job changed in the last 7-8 years since you've been here, and then kind of your thoughts on roster volatility, and got a lot of new faces in our lineup.
That's not a lineup question, is it? Let's see. Say that first part again.
Just kind of your thoughts on how much your job has changed since you've started at Iowa State.
It's just incredible. That's a whole nother press conference. It's such a transactional, and you said roster volatility. I mean, that's what you've got it, and obviously, and I'm not pointing fingers and saying that the University of Iowa broke any rules. They didn't. They're playing within the rules, but the rules are crazy, and I think that's why the job's so much different, in that it's no longer about, recruiting the best athletes you can, bringing them in and developing them, and then turning them loose each year in your season and your postseason stuff. Right? It's so much more transactional than coaching. It's so much more, whether people want to admit it or not. It's so much more about financial partners. You can call them, that's a fancy word for donors. Your financial partners. I mean, right now, the University of Iowa's got a guy named Bob that's changed their program just in 4 months. I mean, that's pretty crazy that can happen, when the old model was you bring a kid in as a freshman, and you hopefully by the time he's a 5th year, and now it's like microwave wrestling. It's just like boom. Look at the guys that all leave programs, and then the guys that all come in about a 30 or 60 day window, and all of a sudden you got 5 guys that are ranked number 1 or number 2. I mean, it's crazy that is, and you can't do that without those kind of financial partners. And those guys can really, they almost come in and they become, I always say this is, when we talk to people, because we have to do the same thing, this is a chance for you to come in and own the Iowa State wrestling Cyclones, all right? This is your chance. You want to go by the Dodgers, or you the Mets or the Yankees, or do you want to go buy the Iowa State Cyclones? I mean, people don't want to hear it, but that's how much influence financial partners, donors have right now. Is they can come in and change your season, good or bad. Boom. You know, if you got one across the way, it can be bad. If you got one that's in your own hometown, it can be good. So, see, I got on my soapbox, but that's that's just the way it is right now. So my job, you know, we to be honest, we spend a lot less time recruiting, or not. I shouldn't say that. We probably spend the same amount of time recruiting, but we've quadrupled our time in relationships and you know, finding financial partners and finding people that want to be a part. Like really, like, hey, dude, you can be with us. Like, you're going to be sitting next to us. You're going to be on the same plane, going here, going there. I mean, that's where it's at.
How difficult is it to continue to stay focused on wrestling and the product you're going to put out there when you do have to put in so much energy into those types of things?
I try to compartmentalize. I mean, and you never really can totally, but I really try to, like, you know, and I've got a great staff. We have a great staff. So, you know, I rely on those guys a lot too, but I try to say, okay, now it's wrestling season, but then as soon as it's March 21st, boom, it's fundraising season, it's relationship season, it's financial partner season, and that's what's changed in the job. You know, that was never, but even when I got hired 7 years ago, you know, I went to the beach for a week. You know, now I'm having dinner on Sunday night with, you know, Joe Rich guy. So.
Speaking of the influx of money seemingly that has come into college wrestling, Connor Uten seems to be the antithesis to that. He was an under-radar kid. I think he was a walk-on, maybe. I don't know if
he's not a walk-on, but
okay.
He wasn't a high-dollar like blue chip recruit.
Right.
Yeah.
What does it mean to have a guy like that come in, be a redshirt freshman, and compete at the level that he is? What does that say about your program?
No, I think it's a great story, and that's just where we always want to stay. I mean, we're always going to have to play that portal game a little bit, but man, you sure just want to be loyal to your guys at every opportunity you get. You know, the way I look at it is if you got a guy that, you know, that hasn't had a chance to do it like Connor, now he's going to get a chance to do it. You got to try him out. Like, you got to give him a shot because he's worked awful hard. You know, and then the competitive side of it is if you get a guy in there and he just fails and isn't a guy that can be a top 25 guy for you, then if you want to be competitive, you got to go play the portal war. You know, but I think it's a lot more fun having the Connor Uten stories that you know that are kind of homegrown in your program, and he's got a big test in front of him. Another guy that came in, you know, last year that's phenomenal.
Yep.
Caliendo is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know.
And then speaking of the portal game, might as well talk about Evan Bachman.
Yeah, right.
Bachman's got freshman Gabe Arnold. Obviously, we saw Gabe Arnold last year in Hilton. What's he got to do in that matchup? Obviously, Gabe is one of the most talented wrestlers out there. So.
Yeah, super talented. I think you got a guy that's really talented, and I think we got a guy that's really tough. So we'll see how tough Arnold is, and we'll see how talented Bachman is. And you know, you got to put those two together, I think, to be really, really good, talent and toughness. And we'll see. You know, we got kind of two guys that I know our guy's really tough. Is he talented enough to go with that guy? And, you know, we got to see how tough their guy is. But, you know, for us to, again, obviously, you know, we didn't have a lot of experience, or I don't want to say a hole, but when you have a hole, it's not like it used to be where you got to go find a guy and develop it, and you just dial 1-800-PORTAL and you're there, you know.
Looking at the big picture, obviously this weekend's a really big opportunity, even just outside of it being the Cyhawk. They're a top 5 team, so it's a big opponent. How do you feel about your guys matching up in this when you talk just line up start to bottom? I mean, top to bottom.
Top to bottom. Well, I think there's some toss-ups down low, but I think if you look at the favorites, they definitely have the nod. I mean, we know we're going in as underdog. I mean, if we want to have a chance, we got to win all those toss-ups. And I think from a wrestling fan's perspective, you know, that's what they want to see. They want to see there's not a lot of, like, mismatches on paper where one guy's just supposed to go out and smoke the other guy. I think the fans are really going to get their money's worth here. There's a lot of nail-biters. And even in the matches where somebody's a favorite, I think they're only slight favorites. I mean, I think there's a favorite at 157, but not a huge favorite. You know, do you call 149 a favorite? I don't know. You guys are the journalists. Is 149 a toss-up, or is you guys might think it's Iowa State guy because you're from Iowa State, but you know, if you were to ask the normal Joe guy from Pennsylvania who he thinks the best guy is, he might say it's a toss-up. So I think it just all adds up to a really good dual meet.
Thanks, Coach.